So for this video I'm going to explain why the Collectables game uses a push model of input. So before I go too deep into what exactly I mean by that, I'm going to explain what problems came up to necessitate a design little flip. So here's our game. You left click a little entity, and you right click, and he goes and moves. So already right here, the entity needs to be aware, hey, I was selected, and then he needs to be aware, hey, I now right click to tile. But hey, let's say I left click over here. I know he's no longer selected. If I right click, nothing happens. So we already start to see multiple systems need to be aware of input. Now let's say I select this guy, and I select this guy, and then this guy. And notice the other ones didn't respond to this. So to actually do this, you need the ABS system, which is the ability block system. That's how they actually move, needs to be aware of input. The entity himself needs to be aware of input. The current player, the turn manager, everything needs to be aware of input in very specific cases. So our problem we ran into, I'm leaving these two vagues, ABS node and game state managers, because that's very subject to change. So what we ran into is everyone wants to know about input. And this got really messy really quick. Because you had some cases where some people were like waiting on input, like, and when I click the guy, he's actually waiting for me to select a tile. So in the old model, doing this was very complicated. Who's waiting on what and when, and this got messy. So what we did was just flip it on its head. Instead of everyone pulling the input controller, how about the input controller just tells only the highest level game state manager, and it just gets passed down. As you can see, this is much cleaner and much easier to debug for obvious reasons, because you just step it down. So in practice, we have this input received interface, and this is what everyone overrides. So when tiles are selected, when an entity, which in this case again is the melee minion, is selected, or when we no longer are focusing a minion. And you'll notice all of our controllers here all implement that interface. So what that allows us to do is now our input controller, who's the only one that's actually detecting input. That's a very key thing. Only the input controller actually listens for input. And then what he actually does is then translates that input. Says like, alright, am I clicking an entity or a tile? And then he tells the turn controller. The turn controller currently doesn't do anything in the present state, tells the player controller. The player controller says, alright, was that my currently selected entity? If not, swap it and tell the old guy you're no longer focused. And that goes all the way down to the melee minion, who can now pass that to the ABS system. So we get this nice flow from left to right, from input controller to turn controller to player controller to minion, where you can just follow every stage in the process. So we actually build that on the game mode. So the game mode just builds all the controllers, which again, all inherit from controller base, and controller base is just easy references. This is very subject to change. Good change, yeah. But again, all controllers override this. Boop. And the game mode just creates them all, links up the references, and input controller sends all the information on down. So everyone just kicks the can, and everyone currently has references to each other. This is again very subject to change for obvious reasons. So we get this nice system where if I select this guy, and I swap this guy, the melee minions themselves have no concept of each other. That's all taken care of on the player controller phase of the little pipeline. And that gets kicked all the way down to the ABS system, which is a whole bunch of nodes. Another video for another time, but that's why they're all the way at the bottom here, and they never actually ask for input. All they do is just override the appropriate functions. And you're good to go.